The fog rolled down the slopes like a blanket being pulled across the morning, soft and silent. In a small village tucked into the arms of the mountains, life moved slowly. The wind carried the scent of pine and wet earth, and somewhere in the distance, a conch shell echoed from a monastery. This is where Ratan lived. He was 17, the son of a weaver with skin darkened by the sun and hands calloused from work far beyond his age. His family owned little more than the loom and the worn cottage they lived in, but they held something greater, ambition, and it was Ratan who carried it on his shoulders. He wanted to study not just the local language, but science, astronomy, and engineering. He had seen the stars once from the ridge above the village and asked his father, "How do they stay up there?" His father had looked at him for a long moment, then said, "Go find out." So every day before the rooster called, Ratan rose and walked. The only school that taught beyond the fourth standard was on the other side of the mountain. The path wound around steep cliffs, dense forests, and rivers swollen in the monsoon. It took him 3 hours each way. He never missed a day. The villagers called him foolish. "What's the use?" one asked. "You will come back and still weave cloths like the rest of us." But the old monk at the monastery once stopped him on the trail. "The mountain doesn't move, boy, but the path does. Keep walking." And Ratan did, in heat and rain, in leech field, undergrowth, and snow-covered bends. His slippers wore down to the sole, and still he walked, with his stick in hand and books wrapped in cloth against his back. He climbed. When he reached the school, his shirt clung to his skin, but his eyes were bright. He sat in the last row, always quiet, always listening. Some days he would reach home so late his dinner would be cold. His mother scolded him for not staying safe, but she would tuck a warm roti into his bag the next morning just the same. One day, while descending the path, he heard a cry. A child from the village had slipped into the ravine below. Without thinking, Ratan climbed down. It took him nearly an hour, and when he reached the boy, he found his leg was twisted. Ratan lifted him onto his back and carried him back to the village. That night, the entire village gathered. They had never seen Ratan as more than a quiet boy chasing the stars, but now they saw him as someone who had brought a child back from the edge of the death. The next morning, something changed. The mason gave him a pair of sturdy shoes. The shopkeeper slipped a small packet of jaggery into his bag. Even the old man who once called him foolish nodded at him as he passed. Support grew, silent like roots under the soil. 3 years passed. On his final exam day, the river had flooded. No one could cross. The other students turned back, but Ratan waded through the cold, chest-high water. His books were ruined, but he remembered everything. He wrote from memory. When results came, Ratan had topped the district. A government officer visited the village. "This boy," he said, "has climbed more than just a mountain. He has climbed through the woods." Ratan received a scholarship. He left the village not with pride but with promise. Years later, when the government built a road to connect the remote village to the nearest town, they named it after him, Ratan Path, and at the start of it, carved in the stone were the words, "The mountains stand still, but those who walk move the world."